All right, here we go, everybody. Welcome to episode number 92 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, April the 17th, 2021. My name is Jeremy Lee. Before we get to tonight's episode, I do want to thank last Saturday's guest, Ken Golden of Golden Auctions. We had a great discussion. Check it out. That episode is on the YouTube channel in the archives. I also want to thank last Saturday's After Hours guest, Chase Rhymes. Sophisticated collector. We had a good follow-up to the Ken Golden episode. Check that out. It was really great as well. Next Saturday on the show, my guest will be the CEO of fractional ownership company Otis, Michael Karnjanaprakorn. He'll be joining me. I'm looking forward to getting to know him better and learning all about what Otis is up to. And next Saturday on After Hours, joining us again will be Carvin Chung, the architect, the inventor of the Exquisite and the Cup, and very popular hobby personality. Looking forward to having him back again. I want to welcome all new viewers. We just passed 2,650 subscribers on the YouTube channel, so thank you very much to each of you. And if you are new here and not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Greatly appreciate it. All right, shout outs, guys. We got shout outs tonight to the podcast listeners. Appreciate you guys and hope eventually you can watch it live. I've seen a few of you in here for the first time recently, and that's pretty awesome. So thank you to the podcast listeners. Also want to shout out the Big Three Hockey. Give them a follow on Instagram. There they are on the ticker right now. These guys are great, and they are great supporters, and they love the channel. So give them a follow on Instagram if you have not yet done that. We have a new shout out. This is actually pretty cool. So there is a website called majorleaguesocks.com, and these guys sell socks with pictures of hockey and baseball players on them. And I needed to pick up a couple of pairs for my buddy for his birthday. So I went on the site and I put the order in the shopping cart. I ended up phoning the company up and I said, hey, do you have a discount code available? And then I'm like, wait a second, maybe we should see if they'll give one for the channel. So they did. We got a 20% discount code. And I want to show them. I bought like 20 pairs from these guys. So just to see what they look like, there's Teemu Selanne with the Jets. There's Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Gordie Howe. I haven't even worn these ones yet. And they come in these pretty cool boxes. I don't know. I just think they're awesome. I wear them. I'm wearing Alexander Ovechkin's on my feet right now. Just wanted to let you all know they support important causes like the Movember Foundation and that. So I'm going to stream the discount code for you on the bottom shortly. Check them out and receive 20% off your order. I did, and I just ordered like 11 more pairs from them. So pretty cool. All right, and my final shout out of the night. This is kind of cool, guys. Yesterday it snuck up on me, but yesterday was a 1-year anniversary since the first episode of Sports Cards Live. I'm even wearing the same shirt I wore that night just for fun. So I want to shout out like all the viewers, the listeners, the subscribers, all the guests, all the advisors I've talked to along the way that have given me great advice, supporters, and all the friends that I've made. It's just been an awesome experience for the last year. And I just got to thank everybody for really enhancing my hobby experience. It's been great. This is the 92nd episode of Sports Cards Live. We've done 32 episodes of After Hours. That's 124 episodes total. And we've had over 100 unique guests on the show. So what a ride it's been. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Okay, be sure to stick around for the end of the episode. We have Eric Doty coming on. He is the CEO of Loupe the App. He has signed up to join us for the Sports Cards Live 5 at the end of the show, so stick around for that. And then later tonight on After Hours, our guest will be super high-end collector Eric Myers. All right, we're going to get to tonight's guest, all right? His first memory of cards goes back to collecting with his father and his Derek Jeter gold cards that his parents ended up throwing out, which he wishes they didn't. His favorite teams are the Seattle Seahawks, the Miami Heat, and the Buffalo Sabres. I told him I was going to throw in the Sabres. Favorite athletes are Marshawn Lynch and Kyle Lewis of the Seattle Mariners, originally from Buffalo, New York, currently hailing from Miami, Florida. Let's bring him out. Eric Doty, welcome to episode 92, Sports Cards Live. How you doing tonight, my friend?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing good tonight.
All right. Well, that's cool, man. So it's great to have you. I mean, you're one of these entrepreneurs who's starting up a company, and I know that you conceived the idea before the pandemic, and we're going to get into that. But what's interesting to me, number one, is that you've got the concept. you built it out, you've rolled it out, and then the pandemic hits, and I want to get into that, but I think it's inspirational. You know, there's so much more, so many more companies coming out and supporting the hobby and being a part of it. So I'm excited to learn about what Loupe is, a little bit more about what it is, and what your vision is, and really the need that you're looking to fill with it. So before we get into all that, let's welcome some of the guests that we have already, some of the viewers who are joining us in the chat, and then we're going to start with a bit about you, because what I do like to do on the show, as the audience knows, is really introduce the people behind some of the brands, some of the companies that are in the hobby. So we're going to do that. We're going to get to know Eric, and then we're going to hear all about what he's up to. But before we get to that, we got Frank Ostella in the house. Good evening, Frank. Glad to have you. Yannick, great to see you. Thank you for the congratulations. Appreciate it. Dennis Lescombe is here. Good evening, Dennis. We got Rocco Rosado. Looking forward to the usual interesting and informative show. Thank you, Rocco. Terry Fortune in the house. Terry joined us on Clubhouse today. Jeremy Fringle. My boy Joe Perot is here. Brandon Metalberg, welcome to the show. Here and ready to learn. Very cool. Jeff McMahon, good evening to you. Brent Criswell, 23 Aaron is back. Happy Saturday to you, sir. Jay Sut, Card, good evening. Card Shop Dad, you're the best. Thank you, Card Shop. That's very nice of you. Sanderson to Orr, you do need those Gordie Howe socks. I've got them right here. I haven't worn them yet. Anyway, I'll talk more about those later, perhaps. Steve Menzie, owner of the Sport Card Expo. Welcome to the show. Hey, man, my pleasure. Thank you for what you do as well. My boy, Sam Genova, thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, BT. Really appreciate that. David G, good evening to you. Nick, 1 year of fantastic interviews. Congrats. Hope the shows continue for many more years. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We got Ronnie Myers-Shafik, good evening. And Yamwax has joined us. Thank you so much, Yam. Much appreciated, and appreciate what you're doing as well. Card Canucks, that's Charles, good evening. And Joe, I appreciate that so much, my friend. All right, Eric, the intros are done.
I recognized a few of those names.
What's that?
I recognized a few of those names.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. And we got Hockey. Good evening, Hockey, and thank you. So listen, let's hear, I mean, you, as I mentioned in my intro, you were a collector as a young kid, but let's hear a little bit about like you growing up. Where do you come from? And are you a collector are you a collector through and through? Tell us a little bit about kind of everything that takes you up until the start of your professional career.
Okay. So I grew up on a dairy farm in the middle of nowhere, south of Buffalo, New York. Didn't grow up with a ton of money. I think my biggest luxury was probably a Super Nintendo that I saved up all my allowance for like the whole year. And my parents, I gave that to my parents and said, can you please make this happen for Christmas? So Super Nintendo was like my big thing as a kid. And I played sport. I played like 3 different sports. My dad coached the local summer soccer league team for kids. And we just started, I don't even remember how it started. We just started collecting sports cards together. It was mostly baseball and I think a little bit of basketball. And, you know, we couldn't really go out and see professional sports where we lived. So my real connection to the pros was these cards and learning their names and reading all the fine print on the back. And like you said, I remember having a lot of Derek Jeter draft pick cards, especially a lot of the gold foil ones, you know, the special inserts, which now I think if you look at those graded, you can understand why I cried when my mom said she threw them all away a couple of years ago. But yeah, I ended up going to a local engineering school in Alfred, New York. And after I graduated there with my degree, I drove off to Seattle with the hopes to work at Microsoft, which we'll probably get into, but I ended up working there for many years.
So, okay, well, there you go. Let's segue right into that then, because what I'm interested in, I think is going to be insightful, is sort of like you worked at Microsoft. So let's talk about that. What did you do there? And then what did you take from that and use towards what you're doing with Loupe the App now? And how did you even get, so actually go take a step back. You drove to Seattle hoping to work at Microsoft. What happened? How did you get that job?
I just kept applying. I took a job at CBS Radio. So I actually worked on I did some web work and event work for a few stations in Seattle for CBS radio. And obviously, like, not a big radio person. Again, video games was my thing. So I just kept applying to Microsoft and finally found a contract role that was available and took that. And then in about 7 months, I was amazingly just reporting directly to the GM of Xbox Live and working with the VP of Xbox Live at the time. And, I basically built a career there for almost 7 years, just moving around the company, working heavily on, I guess the simple way to put it is kind of being like the voice of the gamer. So if there's a new project coming out or a new initiative, and I would step in and be like, how can I help you? Like, there are people that are really good at certain things like marketing, but it doesn't hurt to have somebody that's an expert on the thing that you're obviously talking about or advertising to people like me who play video games all the time. So I did that for about 6 years, worked on a lot of public things like when we expanded Xbox Live to Russia, and I think it was Colombia and a couple other regions. I helped with someone else. We basically led that initiative, as well as worked on a big campaign for the launch of Xbox One. But if you've ever worked in a really big company, you learn that there's a lot of reorgs. After really big events, a lot of times there's resets of like, okay, well, we scaled up a bunch of teams to get this done, but now we don't need those teams organized like that. We're going to move people around. And it's always stressful time. Sometimes you move offices. And I think by the time I ended my time at Microsoft, I was on like my 12th reorg. And I was like, look, I want to go work at some place that has less red tape, no reorgs. So I went in the startup world, where I ended up at Mom Crush, which is a video game live streaming service. And I worked there for about 5 years. I was employee 8 and then worked my way up to head of product. And you'll find with Loupe a lot of things we think about in a video game sense. Just like, how do we make sure that every button press is fun and immediately does the thing that you expect it to do, where, if you use a lot of websites and apps, not everyone thinks like that. We really want to get you from point A to point B as fast as possible. And I think that's a very much a video game mentality of being mostly impatient, if anything.
Oh, that's really interesting. And, I've never looked at it or thought of things that way. So pretty neat that, every single button everywhere you can click needs to get you somewhere and be somewhat fun. You mentioned that's interesting. That's something that you've taken to Loupe, that you've tried to integrate into Loupe. What about from a running the company perspective? So you were at Microsoft for 7 years, built up your career there, and then went to the startup world. What cultural sorts of things did you take from Microsoft, Xbox, and the startup company to Loupe when you became the CEO?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is just I've had so many different managers within Microsoft. I had multiple managers I worked for in my career there. In the startup world, I had 3 or 4 different managers. And I think when you work for, double-digit managers at that point, you kind of see what works and what doesn't. Are you empathetic? Do you understand? Trying to think how to say this. Basically, I think at the end of the day, the people that you work with do their best work when they feel safe and happy. And I have worked with managers that don't care about that. And I know how just demeaning and demoralizing that is, especially when you're working long hours when it comes to startups. So at the end of the day, I think just kindness and empathy above anything else. Like if I hired you and I trust you to do the job, then there's no reason for me to like micromanage you. If you need to take care of your family, like you go do that, because if you're worried about that, you're not going to do a good job. And at the end of the day, that's the type of manager and CEO I want to be. And I think, my team seems pretty happy, and I think they know that if they're not, like we have a process for them to communicate that. And you know, if you're going to be a manager someday, I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, those are really things you need to think about, even beyond like, is my team producing enough, or are we hitting our goals? Like, is your team happy?
Yeah,
that's really important.
for sure it is. I agree completely. So, okay, some of the viewers, know you, know what you're doing. Some of them may not know what Loupe is doing. So let's take a second and explain what it is that brought you to conceive the idea to start Loupe the App, and what did you see? What experience did you have that led you to think, that led the light bulb to go off and say, hey, there's an opportunity here to fill a void?
Yeah, so I think it was just on a whim. I was trying to build up my Instagram, like what I follow, make it relevant to my interests. And obviously I'm following a ton of sports accounts, and somehow one of them just posted about sports cards. And, again, I collected as a kid, hadn't been collecting recently. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. These cards look much different than I remember. So I started following some sports card accounts as well. And, that leads you down the rabbit hole. Suddenly you're getting Instagram push notifications of so-and-so went live. And one of them was Bullpen LA, huge shop. It was my local shop when I lived out in LA. And I was watching this stream, and they were selling all kinds of hobby boxes. And I started watching others open their boxes. Okay, this is cool. I like this. This, especially at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, what else am I doing? Oh, sports cards. Okay, I'm into this. And finally, I bought into my first box, and I think it was a 2019 to 2020 select box, Panini Select basketball box, and it was amazing. Like, I was so into it. But what I noticed is that as much as I like the opening of the boxes, I didn't like all the process leading up to it. Like, I have to ask them what the price is. I have to know where I'm sending money. I have to go to PayPal, send that, come back to the stream. It's just all this, what we call friction. It just slowed. Again, I'm impatient. I just want things done. And here I am, like, taking a minute to 2 minutes to make a transaction, which I think speaks to the power of how much I wanted that box of cards if I'm going through that much hassle. So really, I think that I did that maybe 4 or 5 times. And every time, just more and more, I was like, okay, I could make this better. And that was late 2019. And then early 2020, I actually quit my head of product job and was like, look, I'm gonna go do this full time. I think we can make a real impact here if we just build a small team and make a simple product, and we're gonna test it and see if people like it. And that's ultimately what led to where we are today.
So, okay. So, and now take us through from, you quit your job. When did you launch the beta?
So I think the beta launched in June or July of 2020. I all I had was my savings from the previous few years, and I went, I'm all in on this. That's how much I believe. I went out and got a friend who was working full-time at another company and said, hey, can you be a part-time consultant developer on this project? And I'll pay you, obviously. And he worked on it, and I think it was, again, June or July, we did a beta, and immediately I could see it. Like, once I had somebody else using it outside of myself and the developer, I was like, okay, there's something to this. And we just kept refining it. And then I think we got our first investment around October. We just kept building the beta, and then it ultimately led to us finally being able to make some investment, because I don't know how much longer my savings could have sustained any team whatsoever.
And then when did it officially launch?
October 23rd of 2020. So we've been out for about 6 months.
And how has the adoption been by users so far?
Amazing.
Right.
It started slow for the first few weeks, and then what I was amazed by is just how much the word of mouth was. Like we didn't invest in what we call user acquisition, just getting new downloads. We didn't really invest much in that until a couple weeks ago. It was all organic, just people finding out and then sharing it with their friends. And for the handful of sellers we had, they obviously brought some people with them as well.
So really, for anyone who's watching right now, I'm going to take a stab at just sort of explaining the elevator pitch of what it is, because people have asked me, and I want to make sure I can do it moving forward. So really, Loupe is it's a platform. It's an app on your phone. It's a platform where sellers sign up to become sellers, and they can then live stream doing group breaks, personal breaks, selling singles, or what you call, I believe, value repack sort of thing, which we'll get into that later. But really, that's what it is. It's a streamlined platform for sellers, and we'll use the group breaker term just for ease of reference. Instead of streaming to, say, Instagram, Facebook, this is somewhere where you can do it, and everything is there, from the seller being there to the communication and the payment, as well as all the shipping information is automatically zapped to them so that they can send it to you once the break is done, and the money moves quickly. We'll get to all that later, but is that kind of the quick and dirty on it?
That was perfect.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So several more questions to come. I want to go to a couple comments we've had. We got Mickey Pasquarillo. Welcome to the show, Mickey. Thanks for being here. Kent Wong. Thank you, Kent. Appreciate that. Great to see you. Cole Perrin. Do you know this person?
Yeah, I know Cole.
You do know? Okay. Well, he wants to say that he loves you.
Right. I was like, I bet there's more to that. Hey, Cole.
Yeah, there is more to it. There is more to it. I just wanted to make sure you knew him first. Toa, good evening. Getting here from Clubhouse. It's great to have you. See, there it is. I got to tell him that he loves you. Well, there you go. And Tyler Nethercott, good evening. Tyler, great to have you back. And Victor from All Time Greats blog says he's seen a lot of marketing for Loupe, so my curiosity is piqued. Looking forward to the episode. Thank you. My man, Darcy. Darcy, good evening, and welcome to the show tonight. So listen, you called the app Loupe the App. And I mean, I know what a loop is. This is what I use as a loop. Why did you name the app Loupe?
Yeah, and this probably shouldn't surprise you, but there are a lot of people who don't know what a loop is. So it's the little magnifying glass used to look at cards and jewelry and whatnot. So the name actually has two meanings. One is everything we're building generally revolves around using the camera on your phone and potentially your camera on your desktop. So we see it as being your digital loop, and that's the app is going to open up. We're only 6 months old, going to open up a ton of new features. A lot of them will be camera centric. So I think it was a nice play on words. And then the other is coming from the video game space. Everything is about feedback loops of how do we get you through a flow of actions and then come back to the beginning and do it again. So again, that was kind of a cute play on words of like, everything we build is really built around streamlining and getting you to do it over and over again. All
right. And so, okay. So I want to go back and talk about your team a little bit. You mentioned earlier that you kind of wrangled together a few friends and that. Tell us a little bit about the team, and has everybody been there from the beginning? Have you had sort of any turnover yet? And no turnover?
No turnover. No. Right. Well, the only one, our early first dev, Patrick, who's brilliant and amazing. He had a full-time job and at somewhere else, and it was so good. It's like, man, I totally don't blame you if you don't want to come over and join this weird little sports card startup. But as we started to get investment, we went out and started getting people on the team. So the first was like, oh, I need somebody to do social media because, as I'm building a business, they're slowly like, oh, what are the things I talk with my hands a lot. What are the things I can't spend time doing anymore? The first was like, oh, social media as a brand. Like I set the tone, but I really need somebody to come along and take that up. So friend of a friend, Jake, who came on board to do social media. And then eventually doing a blog. My friend Brett, who I'd known for 10 plus years from the video game space, he came on and started doing blogs. And then my friend John, from my last my last company I worked at, he came over and started doing some consulting work. And then we went out and found two developers, one Dexter for iOS and Brandon for Android. And I like saying their names because these guys are going to be at events. It's not just me, like it's a whole team effort here. So as we got investment, we really just started applying that to hiring people to the team. So it's 6 right now, and then we just hired 2 more people, and they accepted the offers. I'm not going to say their names yet because they haven't started officially, but we got someone from marketing that actually used to work at Tops, and then we have a brilliant marketplace operations lead that'll be starting, who spent like 12 years at Walmart. Which is like, I think I have some horror stories from working in the video games, like when things got stressful, and it like pales in comparison to hearing about Walmart.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Running a whole store sounds like a monster of a task.
No doubt. And all those SKUs, just organizing all that inventory for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about like getting stressful. So a year ago, pretty much right now, pandemic hits. Here you are about to launch your beta, this and that. Like, how did that impact your scale at not your scale, but your launch? You're ramping up.
Yeah. So again, I had the idea in like late 2019, January, February rolls along. I quit my, very good, had a product job, and like, nothing's going to stop me. Like, this is my big career bet. And then, we register the company in March, and like at the same exact time, pandemic hits. We're all learning like what COVID is, and still, we kept learning more about it. And LA really shut down, and I went, wow, this might have been really bad timing on my part. But if anything, I think it just made us more resilient. It really gave us a remote first mentality. So currently everyone on the team works in a different city, which is the first time I've ever had that in my career. It's been really interesting. But it's been great. And, I think I'm in Miami area now, and we're going to be building out a physical headquarters with a retail card shop. I don't mind saying that. I'm really excited about it. But we're going to have a kind of like a card shop in the Miami area, which to my understanding, there aren't too many of them. They're all kind of further outside the city. And so we're going to start hiring some people here as well. But it sounds crazy when I started a company right when the pandemic started, and then we just kept building. But at the end of the day, I don't think it really impacted us much. We all kind of just stayed inside and did Zoom calls every couple days.
Keep pushing forward. So a lot of other companies in the hobby, are going through some pains right now, some resource pains, some delays with this and that. What are you doing with your company to make sure that you avoid going through some of the pains that some other companies in our space are going through lately?
I think we just really focus on, and this is kind of the whole push behind the whole company is we're only as successful as our sellers are. The people that we partner with to sell their cards and inventory on the platform. So it's really just tunnel vision and focusing on that, because I feel like if we worry about anything else right now, I mean, I'm sure when it's 2 years down the line, it'll be very different. But as a 6-month-old company, you really can't look at that too much or be too afraid, because then like that doubt sets in. So yeah, we've just focused on like making sure the team has what they need to, be happy and healthy at home, making sure our sellers are getting buyers and they're making sales, and we just, make sure that they want to keep coming back to the platform. We've had very little churn on the seller aspect. Like once they start selling with us, they stick with us, which has been very validating. Yeah, and then part of just thinking like mental health. If we're getting like really into it, I lived in downtown LA at the time when I started this company, and pandemic hit. I wanted to be downtown to go to Lakers games, and then, and then there were no Lakers games to go to. So cost of living in downtown LA just wasn't justified, and you're in the middle of a city. So moving to Florida, just outside Miami, has been amazing because I can just walk outside and there's like grass and water, and that's probably been one of the healthiest things for me, just to like keep pushing, is having a place to I live here for like 15 hours a day. I need to be able to go outside every once in a while.
And I guess, you're not a consignment seller, you're not a grader, you're not a manufacturer, so you're not experiencing a lot of the pains that those companies have been experiencing. So,
and I definitely feel for those companies, especially when like I guess it's twofold. One is like you get so much business that it's like you weren't prepared for it, and then like how do you react to that? Coupled with the fact that you just can't bring people into the office, or you can't bring as many people as you would. But I think we're coming out to the tail end of it. So I really hope that everyone just gets back to normal as fast as they can.
Hopefully we are. So, okay, we're going to go through a few more comments, and then we're going to talk about one of your investors that is well known throughout the hobby, and learn a bit about that arrangement. So Todd McDonald, good evening to you. Sanderson Deor says, I'm reading the Forbes article about Loupe now. That's pretty cool. Darren, welcome back. Good to have you. Birds on the Bat says, no, there aren't any shops in Miami. I'm from and live in Miami and badly want a big time LCS. So there you go. You got a customer right there. Sanderson Deor says, I just downloaded the app and I'm checking it out now. So there you go. All right. So investors, you have, I know of one of your investors. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who that investor is and how you got him to become a part of the team?
Yeah, we have probably 16 investors right now, and the one that probably everyone has heard of in some form is Nat Turner, who recently went on to buy PSA in a huge. I was surprised by it. I was like, oh man. When I saw that news in the morning. So Nat's been great. I talk to him every few days, just about cards in general, or how Loupe's doing. And it was really interesting because I followed his card account, which I think it's just Nat Turner's Cards, if I remember correctly. One of the most impressive collections I've ever seen. Like, he just gets these cards and post these amazing photos, a lot of LeBrons and Kobe's I would love to have.
Yeah.
So yeah, talking to him was really interesting because it was, I feel like I'm still so new to what the modern market is, versus people that, there's always going to be people that have been in it for 20 years straight. They've been running shops, and then they see someone new come along and it's like, okay, who's this guy? Probably more choice words than that. But and talking to Nat was very validating. I'm like, hey, Nat, I really respect you. I'd love to know what you think about the current state of the hobby. And also, like, what do you think of this? And, I should probably show him some horrible prototype at the time. It's come a long way. And having him step up and want to invest in us was just such a huge moment of like, okay, we're doing something right. If somebody that is that deep in sports cards believes in us. And I think having a startup, you kind of look for those moments, because that really gets you through all the hardship to the next big moment of like, okay, we just got to grind and get to launch, or like get through this beta. So that was amazing getting him on board.
And what sort of due diligence did he do on you, on the company, on the app, before he was really willing to cut the check?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of my background. So, I obviously have a wide range of professional background. Actually having a working prototype to show helps a lot. I think we were already in beta. So I think, again, just every little thing you can prove to like, this isn't just on paper. This is a thing that's actually being executed. And every time I talk to you, it's like a little further along. You know, that's just, I think, the best way that you can get anybody on board. And I think that's what happened here. And probably with all of our investors, there are plenty of investors that I reached out to one time and they were kind of like, this is interesting. And then, you know, 4, 8, 16 weeks later, I'd follow up with them and say, oh, we've made all this progress since last time. And then it's like, oh, now I understand what you're doing. Let's take this a little bit deeper and talk more.
Right on. Okay. Well, it's great to have a guy like that on board who is so invested in the hobby now and is a collector himself. So when you used the word that was validating that he thought it was interesting and worthwhile. I mean, I can only imagine how that kind of, you must have gone to sleep that night on cloud 9, right?
You act like I sleep. Yeah, no, it was really great.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Okay, let's move along. So I live in Canada, and a chunk of the viewers of this show live in Canada. I can't actually download the app yet. So yeah, I know. So talk to us. Why aren't you in Canada yet? And what are the remaining hurdles? When do you think that the Canadians will be able to download?
Yeah, I knew this question was coming.
I did warn you.
Yeah. Yes, we want to be in Canada. We know there's a huge portion of the hobby that's up there for baseball, hockey, every sport. Yep. And we really, every day, it's how do we make sure that the people that are currently using the app are having the best possible experience, and it's bug free, and that we're making sure our sellers have all the features they need. And every day it's full of compromises and prioritization. So we definitely want to bring it to Canada as fast as possible. Like, I hope, I've said before March, and then once I realized it wasn't going to be March, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to shut up now. So I'm hoping May. I want it definitely before the national happens. But yeah, I think it's always a compromise of like, let's say we notice we have some bugs, or we have what we call tech debt of like things we just know we have to come back to and make better. It's really a compromise of I'd rather focus on doing that. And then when we do release in Canada, you're getting the best experience versus giving you an app and then you just, asking about the same things that everyone else is already.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. And I think it's worthwhile to get it streamlined, get it bug free, and then, expand the market. As I said to you the other night, adding Canada is like adding another California. It's a large market up here. And as Valentini Kitchen says, and I'm just going to read the whole thing. Great as always. Thank you, Valentini. Been watching you for over 6 months. Great app, Eric. I'm wondering when we here in Canada can download it. There's a huge market up here for an app like this. Game changing, which is funny. Right after I asked the question, this comment popped up. I thought, oh, that's good timing, Valentini, and great to have you on. Great to have you commenting on the live. Cardboard Max, good evening to you. Hello, Cardboard friends. So, okay, well, we know we'll get it up here. Hopefully by, I'm going to say hopefully by Q3 type of thing. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Marketing. It was mentioned earlier by Victor from All Time Great Blogs that he's seen a lot of marketing that you've been doing. How has your marketing been received by the hobby?
Yeah, it's been good. I can walk through it a little bit. I just want to. I'm so proud of this. So Beckett baseball, we're like, as I drop it, yeah, like page 2. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, really, really happy with how that turned out. So I don't know if this will get anybody, but I know for a fact that made me so happy when I got this book and I saw our name in it. So the marketing's been great. We've been working with PSA and Beckett. I think it was Sports Card Expo was up earlier.
Yeah.
We worked with them a little bit. We've been doing some various ads across the hobby. And it's been great. I think we've seen a significant increase in our download numbers, people using the app every night. And it's funny because this is the first time I've really marketed like this. you know, when you work in a big company, it's like, oh, they have TV ads and they do all these like really big expected things alongside like car brands. You know, it's just like that's what's expected. And here we are, just kind of like, all right, what's all the scrappy things we can do? Like where are the fans? Where's the hobby? Where can we have really cool conversations with people? And that's where we really focused our efforts. And I think we've been rewarded greatly. Like people seem to like the app. My favorite beyond this Beckett ad is we did a sponsorship with John Boy, who does a lot of kind of like humorous breakdowns of sports events that happen like any day, like a manager getting thrown out of a game in a baseball game. And that was cool because the next day we saw so many people joining the app going, I'm here because of John Boy. And I was like, oh, I didn't even expect that people would like credit him. it was just really cool to see like, oh, I talked to this person and worked with them to get the ad in the YouTube video. And then here I am using my product the next day and just see all these people mentioning John Boy. It was really cool.
That is pretty cool, man. It's nice to know that you know that you're putting something out there and you're getting a response to it. So you're doing this marketing. People are going to come onto the app. They're going to start using it. What can users expect to kind of roll out over the next few months in terms of features? And I'm going to give this to you as a layup because you did mention to me the other night that you've got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And then what you referred to as the crazy stuff after, which is the stuff that only resides in your head.
Yeah.
Within, as far as timeline goes, as far as these 3 phases go, where are you right now within these 3 phases? What's going to come? And just to the audience right now, once we get through talking about the phases, we're going to get more into the app and just what it's like. Because a lot of us as hobbyists, we're used to using, say, eBay and that platform. We're used to using, say, ComC and its platform. But a lot of us maybe haven't yet used Loupe, and it would be nice, I think, to understand what it's like. So we are going to get there, I promise. But before we go there, please let us know about, as I was getting to, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Where are we at right now within those phases, and what are some of the features that you have tapped up and ready to come?
Yeah, so phase 1 is just the basics of what we call live video selling. So can we get people on board to sell their product? Can they stream? Can they get paid? Do they get all the shipping info? And then it's really just the additional features we have are some added benefits of better reviewing of the stream. So after you bought something, going back and watching the stream. Again, just a lot of basic stuff, streamlining the shipping process for the sellers to just make it easier for them. That's really phase 1. It's just kind of like the basics.
Okay.
Phase 2 is basically like marketplace extended. So now that we've got the sellers on board and they're selling and everyone's happy with just the basics in phase 1, how do we take those behaviors and those experiences and take it one step further? So is it a marketplace, or is it our Loupe spin of a marketplace? What do you do with your cards after you bought them? Do we help you get them graded? All those things. I don't want to give away too much, but there's, once you're in a live stream or once you bought cards, there's kind of like 1 or 2 steps beyond that are pretty natural. Like, why can't we help you with those? And then, so phase 1 ends probably around end of May, June. We'll be good. We'll clean up any last minute bugs we have and get those last features out. Then through the summer into fall, we're going to work on phase 2 and just keep rolling out new features every week. We're hiring engineers. Like we want to accelerate this and get this moving along faster and features released faster, obviously. So we're hiring a team. And then phase 3 is kind of what I call identity. So I would love to do this sooner, but I think for what people are doing today, they really just want to get cards as fast as possible. But identity is really cool because I think that it's how do you show off the kind of collector you are using Loupe? And there's a lot of really cool things we can do there as far as like tracking your collection, showing it off. And there's so many, I have like 4 pages roadmap that I know for a fact we're not going to get to all of it this year, but we're going to try really hard and obviously build up a team to do that. So yeah, and then beyond that is all the crazy stuff that I'm not even going to mention. I don't even mention to my team yet because I don't want them to be distracted from what they're working on today. But I think Loupe is, I want it to be on the phone of everyone that collects sports cards should want Loupe on their phone. And I understand today if you're like, hey, buying from live videos isn't for me. Cool. But I think we have some other things coming that even if you don't buy from live video, you're going to want whether to sell or buy cards.
Right on, man. Well, hey, good. And it's the crazy stuff that piques my interest. And I'm sure if any of your team is watching right now, they're kind of wondering, oh, what's he got coming down the pipe for us later on?
Have me on again in maybe a year and we'll talk.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Darren says, congrats, Eric. Always great getting the name out there. Hope Loupe continues to boom. He goes on to say, but be careful. Don't give away too much here tonight. I can see eBay, ComC, Starstock, etc. trying to build in a portal to copycat you. And Sports Card 613, good evening to you. Joe, I see your question. We're going to get to that a little bit later because it's a good one, but we'll get to it a little bit later. So I want to know now, you've taken us past the crazy stuff. Like, what is your personal plan for your career? Like, are you already thinking exit? I know a lot of times when entrepreneurs start a company, they have sort of, maybe we'll get acquired, maybe we'll spin it off, maybe we'll go public. They have sort of liquidity events in mind. What about you? Are you already thinking that way, or are you going long term?
I think long term for sure. And it's funny when this isn't the first time I've heard this question. Basically, I'm a first time founder, first time CEO. If we count when the product launched as the beginning, 6 months.
Pretty new.
It's tough to think like, oh, what does this look like in 5 to 10 years? Which again, the crazy stuff is what I get excited about long term. I want to ride this out. Like I'm here. This is my big bet. If we, 10 years from now, if we go public, cool. If we're acquired in an important part of another business, cool. But at the end of the day, at least for the next couple of years, my goal and execution plan doesn't change. It's bring really cool, useful features to the hobby. And, I love my own app. I am in the app every single night. I have spent more money than I would like to admit on sports cards from all of our own sellers. And I've started, if anything, they've unlocked the beast of collecting sports I didn't even collect before. So yeah, the short answer is long term, I'd love to just stay with it and be independent and go public. But again, you never know with these things. Okay,
no, for sure. It's a new question I'm going to be asking. So I wanted to ask it to you. Okay, we have another question here from Sanderson to Orr, and I'm not going to get you to answer it because I'm going to tell a short story after I read this comment. He says, is this only going to be about modern card box breaks, or will there be vintage cards for sale on the app? And the reason why I want to tell a quick story is because just over a year ago, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show tonight, like last night was the 1 year anniversary of the first episode of Sports Cards Live. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of ties into why this show even started up. It goes back to March of 2020. I had some vintage hockey cards, graded cards that I wanted to sell. And I didn't want to go through the process of scanning them and putting them up on different sites and cross-posting and then having to deal with PMs back and forth and negotiating and all that. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I could just live stream and just show the cards? Like, hey guys, I got a PSA 4 Gordie Howe, $100. I got a Sidney Crosby, $200. I'm showing socks in the place of cards right now just for fun, right? Got a Connor McDavid, whatever it is. I thought, wouldn't it be great to do that? So I went on Facebook and I found a vintage hockey group that I was already a member of. And I asked the moderators if I could live stream and sell some vintage cards. And they said, sure, but you can only sell cards up to 1989. Okay, fine. So I did that. I went on and I live streamed for about an hour and a half, and I had a great time. And I sold a whole bunch of cards, did a ton of deals. And afterwards, and even throughout, you know, the viewers were making comments. I was verbally responding, and I just said, okay, send me a message and we'll get the deal done. Well, I got some really good feedback on that. And then I had some modern cards I wanted to sell, and I knew I couldn't go to that same Facebook group. I had to go somewhere else, but there were so many of them that I thought, well, where am I going to go to get the most exposure? And I thought to myself, well, hey, maybe I will create a new Facebook group called Sports Cards Live, where you go to live stream your cards. My point in all this is that you didn't exist yet at that point. You had the idea, you had conceived it, and you were even planning it. But had you existed back then, and were available in Canada,
right?
I might have used your app to do this, and Sports Cards Live might never have been born. Like, for real, that's kind of. So in a way, you know, I'm glad to meet you. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, but I'm glad you didn't start until you did, because if not, I might not be doing the show, which I've really had a great time doing for the past year. So that's why I tell that little story. It's kind of just a coincidence that you were planning it as I wanted it. So, so, you know, you did fill a need, right? There was a void there because, you know, I'm sure I'm not alone. There were other people looking to do it. And as we know, many other people are live streaming and selling cards, but mostly it is from the perspective, as Sanderson Toora says, of modern card box breaks. So to his question, and we're going to get into the types of sellers, so we may as well just do that now. Is Loupe just for modern card breaks, or what else goes on there besides modern card box breaking? And in your vision, what else should and can be going on there?
So we do everything. If it is sports cards, you can sell it. We do Pokemon and other things. We allow that. So we actually have a couple sellers that do sell vintage, and it depends on what you consider to be vintage. So Fresh Pulls, every Thursday, they do a vintage night. So they sell, you know, classic baseball. They do some repacks. I think I actually bought one, and it was like a Hulk Hogan graded like 1990 card. But yeah, they do all kinds of stuff. And then a basketball card guy does nights where he sells usually singles, sometimes repacks, of all different, like the whole spectrum of basketball cards. So you can pick up Michael Jordan's, Allen Iverson's. You can actually go back and pick up some classic Wilt Chamberlain's. Like he has everything. So I'd say a majority right now is modern, but there's still vintage sprinkled throughout the whole app, just depending on the night and who's streaming.
So really, it's going to come down to your sellers, right? If I decide I want to sell on Loupe, I can sell whatever I want once I am vetted, and we're going to get into that process. And then really, it's going to be about me as a seller and you as the platform promoting the fact that I'm on the platform, selling what I'm selling. And just like you said right now, you just promoted a couple of your sellers, which is very nice. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the platform builds, the user base builds, and the buyers come to where the cards are. Is that kind of fair to say? And that's kind of part of the strategy, to build out all these different genres of selling, of items being sold?
Yeah, we want to have something for everyone. We have Brew Medic, who almost exclusively does hockey, which is great because he's gotten me into hockey cards now, even though I will admit I don't watch a whole lot of hockey. But man, shout out to Upper Deck. Man, I haven't collected a lot of Upper Deck lately until I started like getting back into hockey cards, and like phenomenal sets, especially like the Cup. Cup was a lot of fun to rip. But yeah, we let everyone kind of, even when we onboard new sellers, we kind of look like, what do you specialize in? What can you speak intelligently on? What do you like promoting? Like, you can tell when somebody is like, oh, I'm selling football just because like football is the hot product, versus I'm selling hockey because I absolutely love hockey and I watch it all the time and I'm an expert. And like that sort of enthusiasm is infectious. And so we really look to encourage that and let them run with their specialty. And we just promote them in the appropriate channels of like, oh, it's Sunday night football. Like, cool, let's get a football breaker on and we'll promote them, and just, it's relevant. So yeah, we just try to do what we can. We're only as successful as our sellers are. So we give them all of our all of our resources to get their name out there.
And have you actually gone to the lengths of like targeting certain sellers that you've seen on other platforms like Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing, and said, hey, come try us out?
Early on, yeah. Sorry, you probably noticed I need new glasses, and I feel like I'm sitting here, I'm like every 30 seconds just pushing them up.
That's all right, man.
I got really self-conscious after like the 7th time. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this all the time. Anyway, back to your question. At first, yes, I was looking around Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and just trying to find anybody that would listen to me. Like, hey, we really believe in this. We're building something just for you. And, there's a lot of people who are, hesitant to go into something new when they've been, maybe they've been doing breaks for 6 to 12 months already. And they just feel like, why would I bring somebody else into that? Like this, I'm good, thanks. But we actually got Fresh Pulls, and I think Ecto, Selecto. They were kind of the early ones that really came in and looked at us during the beta and then for launch. And from there, it's just word of mouth. Like, it's a small world. A lot of these sellers all know each other, and it definitely turned into like, oh, well, my buddy in another city like does breaks. Met him a couple times at the national or various card shows. I think you really like this. You should reach out to him, or they'll do an introduction. And then now, I mean, we've really, I feel like we've built a good reputation. All of our sellers are like really great advocates for us. So now we have a long queue of 100+ people trying to get in, and I'm just sitting here going, oh man, what did I do? Now I have to go through and review everyone and take the time to onboard them appropriately. But it's all been worth it. Like, people seem to really like selling on the platform.
That's cool. And I want to get into the onboarding process shortly. We're going to go to a couple of comments here. Sanderson Dora says, stop teasing me with those how socks. Well, here they are. I'm going to one more time give a shout out to Major League Socks guys. So I talked to these guys a few days ago because I was placing an order, and I got them to give us a special promo code. There it is on the ticker, Sports Cards Live. They have right now hockey and baseball socks, and I'm literally like, I love these things because they're just cool. And it's my daughter always wants to know who I'm wearing and show me the face, and then she says their names. And she's 4, so it's pretty cute. And they come in these neat boxes like these. I don't know. They're just they're fun socks. I'm wearing Ovechkin's right now, so 20% off your order if you go to the site. So Darren asks, do they slab socks? Good question. No, you cannot get socks slabbed. Brett Makindonsky, so it must be one of the sellers on Loupe, says next Wednesday we have a box of 76 Tops basketball that's going to be very cool. I'm guessing he's one of your sellers. That's pretty neat, and that's a vintage product. Darren says, I like the idea of a hub to showcase your cards and sell your cards as you sell them. I'm not sure I understand that, Darren, with the part in quotes, but I
think he means like you're speaking about the cards, like promoting. Oh, I love this card because which is what Basketball Card Guys does. He's very good at it. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Eric, for clearing up and helping me understand what Darren was saying. Terry Fortune says, what are the fees for buyers and or sellers? We don't publicly say the fees yet. I think that's just more me being cautious. I'm sure we will at some point. But once we approve you and onboard you, we discuss it with you to make sure that you're okay with it. It's probably way lower than you expect. It's way lower than eBay or StockX. It's really enough to just pay for the processing fees, because there's always fees to handling credit cards and bank cards, and then the bandwidth. So basically the platform to project the video and handle sending the video to everyone that's viewing you. So yeah, I mean, I think we're at a very, very fair rate. And also we're going to have other ways for you to make money as a seller later on. So it'll depend on what you're trying to do on the platform. And when we communicate, we're very transparent with our sellers, like where the fees are coming from and why we came to that number.
And I think that's all right because you actually go through a pretty extenuating process to onboard and vet your sellers, which we'll get into. And at the end of the day, they're your business partners. And oftentimes the arrangements between business partners are kept somewhat on the down low, if you will. So I think that's totally cool. Bless and Break says, I would like to know the difference between Loupe and your average Facebook group where only the creators, moderators, and admins really get any action on fire sales, box breaks, and razzes, not regular members. Is this something you can speak to, Eric?
Yeah, so I should be clear up front that we don't do razzes. I have a pretty hard stance that we don't allow our sellers to do razzes. Raffles are actually like illegal, I think, in if not all states, most of them, unless you're a charity. So we straight up don't allow those. So right now we have to approve everyone because they are business partners. So I guess you're different. It's different, but not a lot from probably the way that you're comparing it to those Facebook groups. Like you can't just download the app and immediately start selling. I think it's probably, should we just roll into like how we accept new sellers?
Let's do it, man. Let's get right into it. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if you email us at support@loupetheapp.com, we will send you an application form and you fill that out, and the application asks for basically like, what state do you live in? How long you've been doing it? How much product do you normally sell? Can we take a look at one of your past streams? Just to make sure that you actually are in this, like you're basically running this as a business. And we also really like people that do it full time, or at least like near full time. We just don't want to go through the process of onboarding someone, vetting them, setting them up for payments, and then they come on and they have like 3 hobby boxes and then they're not on again for a month until they restock. So we're really looking for people that like they are on the verge of selling cards as a full-time business, or they already are. And as I've said, we are definitely going to, over time, like that'll reduce more and more and it'll become more streamlined. And you'll be able to sell, but maybe with like limited tools, or there'll be like other limitations to it. Because again, like we're trusting you to get on live video. Like you represent our brand. Like you could be the first stream somebody sees when they download the app. And that really means that's really important. So I guess right now my answer is it's very restricted. We have a couple dozen sellers. We're trying to add a couple every week. And that's going to scale up more and more, and it'll get better over time. So, I hope by, the end of the year, we're going to have hundreds, maybe even thousands of people selling on Loupe. But again, 6 months old. We're still figuring these things out.
Okay, no, good stuff. And so you, as far as vetting the sellers, you send them the application form, they fill it out, send it back. You will actually take time, go watch one of their old break streams, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. Mm-hmm. Do you check eBay feedback if they have it? Do you ask for their eBay account ID?
Yeah. So we basically ask for anything that we can. It's pretty open. It's like, just give us everything. Yeah. Like if we're going to evaluate you as a business partner, like just give us everything. And we definitely look at eBay. And then I think the previous videos, we look at comments. So if you stream to YouTube, like I can go back and look at the comments and look at just in general, like look up your store name and see if anybody's mentioned you in Facebook groups or like forums. Again, we're just kind of doing a basic background check of like, do you run a legit card business?
And so, considering that as you consider these sellers to be your partners, to what extent do you go to help them improve as sellers?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that. I think that's a huge value we offer versus just like going on your own on Instagram, is once you're onboarded, we handle all the payments and then we pay you in a lump sum. So we kind of protect you potentially from scammers trying to do chargebacks. And as a buyer, obviously we're vetting the sellers. So there's like a level of trust. If you're a Loupe seller, like these people are legit, they ship on time, you can reach out to them, all of that stuff. And then beyond that, it's, we want to bring buyers to them. So all of our marketing really benefits them. Like, I'm not selling on the app. Like, I want to bring people who are interested in basketball to people that sell basketball, and hockey to people that sell hockey. And then on top of it, we actually evaluate their streams. Like, I'm in the app every single night for probably 5 to 6 hours, just jumping around, watching streams, buying cards. And we actively give feedback. So, hey, you were trying to fill a break. You're down to like 5 spots, but you were starting to talk about a different break and we're distracting people. Like, maybe you should think about it differently. You shouldn't really distract people and really focus on what you're trying to sell, or even down to like production value. Like, oh, maybe you could use a white light to like make your colors pop more, to, oh, you haven't tried a repack event yet, or even like, oh, you specialize in football. How about we do a special event with you during the Super Bowl that we use all of our marketing channels, all our social media channels, our email newsletter. We're going to promote your stream the week leading up to that event. So hopefully everybody that uses Loupe, by the time the Super Bowl comes along, knows that you're going to be on at 8 p.m. and you're going to be selling something special. You're going to be doing giveaways, etc. And you're never going to get that working on a like agnostic platform like Instagram. So we really are all in on just how do we empower these sellers to build their businesses. Really, like, anytime a seller tells me they quit their job to sell on Loupe full time, which has happened twice now, is like mind blowing and so satisfying. Of like, okay, now it's serious. Like, now we can't fail.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do as much as we can to help them build their businesses.
And so when the sellers sell their cards, whether it's singles or group break, the spoils of a group break, and they ship it out, how do you know that they're shipping it out on time? How do you know that they're shipping these cards out well protected, and that the buyers are ultimately happy with the end product?
Yeah, so support at loupetheapp.com is a bit like, we even promote it in the part of the app. Like, if you ever have a question or a concern, you email us. You don't email the seller directly, at least at first, because we want to make sure that we know what is happening on the platform. So if somebody goes, oh, I didn't get my package yet, I can go in and actually see the tracking, or I can reach out to the seller and ask for the tracking. But one feature we didn't talk about, which I think is really interesting, is we suggest that all of our sellers ship within 2 business days. I think that's fair. And if they're not going to do that, they run out of supplies, or they're snowed in at their home, things like that, we ask that they email everybody that bought for them and tell them if it's not going to be 24 hours or 2 business days, that, oh, it might be another day. Once that's been shipped, they actually input the tracking number into the app. So when you look at your purchase history, items that have been shipped have a little truck next to it. And if you tap it, it pulls the USPS tracking and tells you exactly, like, if it's been shipped, where it is, if it's been delivered, and what the address was. We're actually pretty soon working on a whole revamp of that, of even communicating more info on that view. So again, we try to even streamline communication. So you're not asking the seller for that info. Like, they just put it in the app and it's available there for you.
So because you mentioned that you're on there 5, 6 hours a night, checking out the streams, you're also buying cards. So they're shipping cards to you, some of these sellers. Have you ever come across a package where you're like, wait a second, this guy's not protecting the cards properly? Or do you reach out, and do you use your purchase from them as sort of a bit of a vetting system at all, or just to see how they're conducting the business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I totally want to see how they're packing. Luckily, we have had no issue. If anything, they've taught me how to pack cards, because I realized that I wasn't doing a very good job. So I've definitely upped my game because of our sellers, but they all do a great job. And some of them actually buy from each other. So I think they see and they're like, oh, because again, I wouldn't say they're competition to each other, but they definitely have competitive mentalities of like, oh, you set a new record. Well, I'm going to try to beat that record. Or, oh, you pack really well. I'm going to up my game a little bit and I'm going to pack as well as you do. So like we've had zero problems with packing quality, but like you suggested, like I'm very curious when we sign a new seller like that. I try to buy day one and then I'm like, okay, how long does it take for me to get it? How was it packaged? Because I'm ultimately getting the same experience as any other buyer. So yeah, we definitely look at that.
So you just sparked a question in my mind. You said one seller will see, oh, you set a record. I want to set the new record. Is there like a leaderboard sort of system built into the platform?
No, we're looking at that. We don't want to communicate. People's if they want to communicate how much they're making or things about their business, they can on their own. But that's not for me to share that info. But we have thought about doing leaderboards for like top hits of the month. Like it would say like, oh, so heat check Mike on Loupe, I think it was last night, pulled a rookie patch auto of Herbert.
I saw
Herbert.
that. I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah, I think it was like up 20. I mean, this is a potentially very, very expensive card. So, I think a leaderboard around like, who's pulled what this week and even like a fair market value and like, oh, this card, even beyond what the hit is, but like, oh, this card is like potentially worth $20,000. Fun story about that. If you knew about that hit is I actually offered to pay for Heat Check Mike's flight. I'm like, do you really want to send that card via FedEx with get third-party insurance? That sounds pretty sketch. So we're still talking about it, but I think he's going to hand deliver the card to the buyer, which will be very exciting because potentially it's the most expensive card pulled on Loupe to date, as well as I just think it's really funny to send one of our sellers up to meet the buyer of this like crazy card we just hit like a day ago.
But if you do that, you've set a precedent, so you have to be ready to do it again, right?
There's an asterisk.
Yeah.
Do not expect this every time.
Fair enough. Okay, let's get to a few more comments here. Bless and Breaks asks, will Loupe give preferential treatments to certain sellers?
I'm not really sure what you mean by preferential treatment. Or in all regards, we basically, everything we offer is open to everyone. So we tell everyone, like, if you want to do a special event, you just let us know what day and time. And if it doesn't conflict, or if it does conflict, we'll help moderate and make sure it doesn't. And then we'll do all the promotion for you. So we do a monthly call with all our sellers, and we basically say, this is everything available to you. And if you want to utilize it, it's on you to ask. So I'm hoping my answer there is no. I think it's fair for everyone.
And the next sort of interview you do, I would, when someone asks you what's the difference between Loupe and selling on Facebook, a Facebook group or YouTube, is what you just said there. We have a monthly call with our sellers to let them know what's coming. I don't know any other platform that's doing that sort of service. And I think that's a great value add. If I was a seller, that would be key for me. I just want you to know that's some feedback from me to you. I think that's key feedback. Every month I get to look forward to the Loupe team and collaborating with everybody else on how best to utilize it and what features are coming. I think that's awesome. This comment goes back a few minutes to when you're pushing your glasses. Darren says, get some Horace Grant goggles. Eric?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Sanderson Dor says Gordie Howe is sold out on the site. He's talking about these beautiful socks right here, which I am not giving you, Sanderson Dor. These are mine.
Those look like PSA 10s.
Yeah, but when I talked to the guys at Major League Socks, they did tell me that they will be replenishing the ones that are sold out, so be patient. Peter Chow says, Eric, you are processing the payment. If there are issues with the cards being sent / arriving, are you acting as a mediator? I think this goes back to when you said if there's an issue.
Sorry. Yeah. So when he said processing payment, I read cards as credit cards, but no, he means the sports cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when an email comes in going, hey, my cards never showed up, or I bought 6 things, but only 4 of them arrived. My first thing is I go, cool, all right, I'm going to look into this for you, and I go and find the shipping information and just make sure that what was the address that it was sent to, what does the tracking number say, and then if anything stands out or I can't immediately answer, even if it's not that question, like if it's not something I can answer right away, I go and ask the seller and say, hey, this person made this purchase on this date. I see that it was shipped then. Can you give me more information about it and answer this question? And then if not, then we connect the two of you to just basically, figure it out. Like, what's the next step? And we ask to be CC'd on every email. So if there's a refund that needs to happen, we either issue the refund or we ask the seller to send a PayPal payment. So ours are direct back onto the card, or depending on the situation, they can issue a PayPal payment to you or give you store credit. To date, we haven't had many issues. During the holiday around Christmas, USPS was really bad, and I think most shipments were delayed anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks. We had a lot of emails, and luckily people were like really chill about it. Like, as long as we could show like, yes, the package has been shipped, it's going to the right address, you just need to give it time. We're really sorry, it's out of our control. But yeah, we mediated, I guess you'd say we were the mediator. Yeah, I mean, we try to do that as much as we can, because on top of giving streamlined tools to the sellers, if we can handle all of the basic stuff up front, that's more time that they can spend thinking about running their business as well. And that's a service we offer.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great. I mean, kind of reminds me a little bit of message boards that have transaction moderators and that kind of thing. You're basically acting as a transaction moderator, but it's in your best interest for the reputation of the app. These sellers, they are going to determine the reputation of the app in the long run. So it's in your best interest to take care of that reputation as best you can and jump in and hold them to a standard. Is that fair?
Yeah. And, I try not to think of it as somebody coming in and buying a card and leaving. Like, this is somebody who, once they make a purchase, they're probably going to purchase again. And the last thing I want is them having a bad experience or not trusting us to do the right thing. So yeah, I mean, within reason, like, we want to solve the problem. Like, we want you to be happy. I guess at the end of the day, I should just say that we want you to be happy, and we'll do everything we can to resolve it.
Awesome. Okay. Steve Sir says, hello, little late to the show after some great hockey here in Michigan. Now to catch up on my favorite sports card show. Welcome to the show, Steve. Victor from All Time Greats blog says, I just downloaded the app, so I can't buy single cards, just breaks for now. So let me just see, because that's a great question. So Eric, I guess, does it not depend on who is live at the moment? And if no one is live selling singles, then you can't buy singles if they're only live, because there's no recorded streams, is there? It's just who's live at the time.
Right. So it just depends on the seller. So some sellers only do sealed boxes, some do packs and boxes, some do singles, some do repacks. So it just depends on who's live at the time that you open the app. We try to do a push notification. So if somebody, basketball card guy, is on selling singles, I try to send a push notification that says specifically he's selling singles, and then things like MJ, Kobe rookies, Shaq, etc. if there's like some big call outs. But we are thinking of, I won't give away too much, but we are looking at more persistent ways of, let's say you're on at 6 a.m. and no one is streaming, because why would somebody be streaming at 6 a.m., of still offering you something to buy or engage with. So we're thinking about that, but the short answer is it just depends on who's live at any time.
Okay, no, very cool. And what I'm picking up on, and I hope some other people in the audience are, I mean, if it's the kind of thing that somebody would want to do, But if you're looking at the app right now and you're looking for something and it's not there, that might be an opportunity to be that person on Loupe as a seller, right? Like if I were to go on looking for vintage singles and nobody on there is doing vintage singles on a regular basis, well, hey, there's an opportunity. If you want to be a seller of vintage singles, maybe you can go do that and be that guy for now until Loupe blows up on Loupe the app, right? Like all these things that whatever you're hearing that might not be there, that's an opportunity for somebody right now. And I think that's something that you as the CEO and owner of the company would like to see happen, right? Fill these voids, right? So there's something there for everybody, which is what you said a long time ago. Anything you'd want to add to that?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, we're looking to have a diverse set of sellers, down the line, like as we just keep adding, like we want anything and everything within the hobby to be sold. So we'll get there.
Okay. We have some more comments. We got some more topics. So we're gonna try and get through everything here. YYC Vintage Card says Loupe sounds like an awesome platform. Looking forward to go live in Canada. My only suggestion, more cowbell. I love it. Darren says, are singles raw only, or does that include slabs too? I mean, it's whatever they're selling, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's like 60-40 slab when there are singles of slabs to raw. And generally the raw are more things like memorabilia. If you're looking like classic rookies, they're probably slabbed. That's from a stance that a lot of people want to buy like a certain grade or higher. But again, it depends on the seller and what they have.
For sure. Lucky K says, besides mediating disputes, do you offer buyer or seller protection?
Yeah.
Like eBay does.
I mean, you are buying through Loupe. So, I mean, we have fraud detection. We have chargeback protection. I don't want to get too deep into like our system and how we process everything. But yeah, we do. And, if there's, again, I mean, we're 6 months in. At the end of the day, I need, whether you're a seller or a buyer, I want you to be happy. As long as you didn't do anything wrong, that I'm going to just make sure things flow smoothly. So we had an issue where there was an issue with a payment, and somebody bought, I think it was like $100, and there was a payment issue. And at the end of the day, we were talking through. This actually like helped us build something else to like help with that. But at the end of the day, I was like, look, the company will cover it. Like we'll pay the seller the $100. You just ship that thing to the person that thought they bought it, and everyone's happy. And hopefully they come back and buy again. And you walked away with, you ripped the pack open. So you got the money that you're expecting. And we just took care of it because at the end of the day, we want people to understand, like, we're here for you. We want you to enjoy the hobby. And anytime there's an instance like that, it just teaches us something else that we need to build, whether it's a feature or something in our protocol.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So you mentioned in terms of what people are selling, there's breaks, there's singles, and then there's something that you referred to as, I think, value repacks. What does that mean? Yeah.
So market value repacks, I almost messed it up myself. So I love these. But I want to be clear that these are not the repacks that you might find on Instagram or eBay, where they sell 50 repacks and one of them has a Luca and it's worth a ton of money. And then all the other packs are worth maybe like $25 or $50 and you paid $200 for them or whatever it was. We ask all of our sellers if they do market value repacks, or repacks are only market value. So if they're selling $1,000 repack, that when you open it, you're getting approximately $1,000 in cards, whether that's current market value or there's, it's like a Kobe card, cards that you expect to go up in value. I think there's a little bit of, wiggle room there of like, if you go out and you're doing like an exact comp on the last sale on eBay, it might not exactly match, but we've really had this deep conversation with all of our sellers that want to do repacks. It's like, this is the value that whenever you buy a repack from Loupe, this is what people should expect. So if you buy a repack from one seller and then one from another, it's not going to be drastically different. And those have, those have done amazing. And I think for me personally, I get really excited when I see a repack it's like, this is the LeBron repack or the LeBron rookie repack. And you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you have an idea. And you're like, wow, I'd love to add LeBron to my personal collection, but I've never really knew what I should buy, or it's a hassle to like bid on eBay. When one of our sellers who are an expert in LeBron cards made this curated pack, and I'm like, cool, I'll buy that for whatever, $2,000. And now I have like this amazing set of LeBron cards for my personal collection. And then maybe like in a month, I'm like, oh, I'll sell a couple of these, but this one's the one I'm keeping forever. So yeah, that's, we're really careful in making sure that we communicate what these are. And I think, people flock to them. They sell out every single time we have them.
So when a seller is offering a repack, I'm a little confused. How many packs would be available typically? And it's basic. And so that's question one. The other part of it is, so they're taking, let's say I've got 100 cards that I want to sell, and I don't just want to show one card at a time and put a price on it. I want to gamify it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I might take those 100 cards, make 10 packs where each one is worth about whatever, $1,000, $500, whatever it may be. And then I'm going to sell those packs for $100 so that the buyer has a surprise as to what they're going to get. So it's basically, do they then break them on the live stream once they've sold them all, or can they, like, what's the process of what's the user experience? What's the buyer experience with one of these?
So Lab 20 is a great one that they're actually doing a repack event tomorrow night. I believe it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. So what they do is they go out and buy $30,000 worth of slabs, mostly slabs, maybe some raw cards. And they'll do like football packs. So you buy $100 pack of football and you get $100 worth of football cards. And then they'll have like a $500 pack and a $1,000 pack. And then they have those for basketball and baseball. And, I get unbelievable cards out of those. I actually got, is it this one? I actually think I got this LeBron Chrome rookie PSA 9. I actually got this from one of their repacks.
Wow.
So they go pretty high tier if you want to. So you go in the sales list, you'll see all these repacks available, and then you can literally just buy it, and then you'll get in the queue, and then they go one by one in purchase order. And then sometimes they'll go, Jeremy, you bought the $100 football pack. We actually have 2 of those. Do you want the left one or the right one? And then in chat, you type it, which is actually something we haven't talked about. Our latency is only 1/20th of a second. So it's like instant, left or right, and you're typing left, I get it immediately. And then I'm opening that pack on stream and I'm pulling out, you got this Patrick Mahomes second year PSA 9, and then they put that aside and prep it for shipping. And then the next person that bought the other $100 football pack, like they get that pack. And so they rip it live, just like ripping brand new wax.
Yeah. Speaking to latency, I just want to let when we spoke the other night, you're very proud of the latency on the platform. Mm-hmm. So, how much, and I remember saying to you, even on Instagram, there's often a lot of lag. On YouTube, there can be lag, right? But you're saying there's basically 1/20th of a second of lag on your platform. That's pretty awesome. Is that something that you've got great feedback on from the users? Do they love that? Do they notice it? Is it important to them?
Yeah, it's usually, so whenever we onboard a new seller, I do a 3-minute test. Usually in an off hour, I'm like, hey, can you stream at 10 a.m.? I'm going to jump in your stream. My name is Zilla. So go live, I'll jump in, and then I'll type in chat to you basically what you're seeing. And it takes about 3 minutes and we're done. And then you can go stream all you want after that. But I set that up because it's funny, because it's the first stream they're doing. I'm the only person usually in the stream talking to them, and they'll say something and I'll just answer them. And they're like, oh, that was fast. And I'll be like, yep. And I'm just answering them in real time. And it clicks of just like, oh, this platform is a lot, probably like they had an expectation of this is just Instagram with a streamlined buy tool. And then they're and then they're actually interacting with me, and they're like, oh man, this is like really, this is fast, this is nice.
Yeah. Right.
So every single new seller we bring on comments. It's great.
Okay, well that's really cool. It's nice to hear. I mean, and coming from your background, it makes sense that everything would be streamlined and really intuitive. Okay, I mean, we're gonna get this wrapped up pretty soon here. There's a few things I still want to get to. You know, a lot of us buyers are very used to eBay and the feedback system. Do you have is there a feedback system on the platform at this time?
Not yet. Like I said, we only have maybe 24 sellers, maybe a dozen that are like in the app multiple times a week for long hours. So I think the current reputation system is, did Loupe approve them and they're not kicked off the service? That's a level of like expectation that they're a good seller, and really the only difference is just presentation style or what they sell. Like you may like that someone's really loud and like puts on a huge entertainment show, or maybe you really like this other person that's just more chill and it's like hanging out with your buddies. But that's way more subjective than like this person just isn't good at selling. Like everyone on our platform is like meets a bar. That's not to say in the future, as we add hundreds of sellers and different types, different ways to sell, that we wouldn't introduce some like star rating or thumbs up, thumbs down, that sort of thing.
Okay. Lucky K says, why is your platform faster?
We just use a different technology. There's I won't get into like the full details of it, but there's a few different like video systems you can use, or you can build your own, or you can use off-the-shelf systems, as well as like how do those systems connect to everything else. So like your video could be fine, but you could have other things connected to it that slow it down, or the way you present it. So we just really, I worked on a game company for a while, and our slogan was be cool, be instant. And ever since working there, I just love that. Like everything should be surprise and delight, and everything should be super instant. And that even means like down to interacting in video.
Awesome. No, so it's technology, it's choosing the proper technology to build into the infrastructure. I think it's great. Okay, let's get into, we're going to move away now from the app itself, and we're just going to talk a couple questions I have for you about the hobby in general, and then we're going to wrap this up. So the first question I have, actually, we'll go back to Joe's question, which was from about an hour ago. I said we'd come back to it, so we're going to do that. He asked, in what ways will business culture shift in the pandemic, post-pandemic context?
Joe going deep. So I think the shift is, it was interesting because the pandemic started so like everyone just reacted so quickly to it. I mean, it was like within a month or 2 months, it was just like everything changed. Everyone's working from home. Stores aren't getting foot traffic, all of that stuff. And then I think slowly you're going to see things change. But at the end of the day, I think for most people, like they just desire connection and a place to be. So that place to be could be card shows, it could be your card shop, it could be hanging out in Loupe every night, it could be hanging out in your Facebook groups. And I don't think it's ever going to be one of those things. I think people want variety. So I don't think it's going to be anything mind-blowing. I think you're just going to see things start to open up, and we're going to go to more card shows. But what I like about Loupe is it serves the purpose and that it's always available. So if you want to talk about and buy cards first thing in the morning, if you want to do it when you're trying to fall asleep at 3 a.m., we're there. And we just supplement everything else. Like you could be going to a card show to buy cards directly from someone who otherwise is selling on Loupe any other night. And that's how I like to think about the hobby, is everything's kind of interconnected. And it'll be slow, but I think everything's going to open back up. But people want options and variety at any given time.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. My next question, this is one from me, is basically, this is your business bet, as you said earlier. This is your, launch a company yourself, really put it all out there. Why do you believe in the hobby?
I'm a collector. You touched on it and then I never answered or got to it. I'm a collector at heart. I've collected, whether it was cards or stamps or coins or action figures or comic books. I love it. Like it just gives me something to strive for. And it's a combination of, I like setting my own goals. So it's like, oh, I want to build up and buy that big one. I want to have the Ninja Turtles #1 graded 9.8 in my collection, or I want a LeBron Chrome in my collection. So it's kind of like, again, I'm very video game centric. So when you play an open world video game, you complete the story, but there's like 100 other things you can go complete to 100% the game. And for me, like the hobby and other collections is almost like the real world version of that. Of like, I find things I like and want to collect and put things together. And I just really, really like that. And, I think why I like the hobby specifically, like sports cards specifically, is the community is just so involved. like you see people on Twitter all the time talking about cards and trading and helping people find other cards that they want for their collection. Like that's amazing. Like you don't see that in a lot of markets, and to step into a market where that's already kind of like the expected behavior is a really, really great place I want to be.
Okay, right on. And my last question before we get into the Sports Cards Live 5 is, how does the future of the hobby look to you in terms of, right now we're seeing, the cards have gone nuts in terms of value. Mm-hmm. Where do you see the hobby a year from now?
Yeah, I think you're going to see more variety enter the space. And I'm not a producer of cards, so I don't know what that looks like. But when you have people lining up at a store every morning, or morning of restock, and immediately selling out, like there is not enough supply. And I'm not asking Panini to go out and print more Select. Like I think Select is a product that it should be only printed, or the Cup, or these more expensive rare brands. But I do think there is a place for cheaper product still. I think it's going to be interesting to see how cards are produced in a year to 2 years. Like what needs, now that there's so many people collecting so much, I think it's starting to show holes in the market of like, oh, there's actually a need for this, or there's different tiers where we could fill. And it's going to be really interesting to see who succeeds and who fails there. NFTs are super interesting, mostly just from the fact that like people are buying them only to sell them immediately to make money to a smaller group who are like long-term holders on it. So again, I think NFTs are going to be really interesting, and maybe how they intermingle with physical cards and other physical collectibles. Obviously, like I know there's so much digital art out there now just blowing up.
Okay, no, good, interesting answer. I appreciate the insight. Okay, a couple of comments here. Darren says, I think the hobby is going to be strong post-pandemic. Fantasy sports people like myself have now been turned onto something similar that can be year-round, dynasty type situation.
Totally. Brandon, I agree with that.
Brandon Metalberg says, just joined Loupe. Let's dive in. Awesome. Lucky K says, perhaps you should have specified shipping standards for sellers. It will give another reason for buyers to use your platform. Nothing worse than top loaders not being used and people using Scotch tape. Do you have standards already set for the shipping?
Yeah. So there's no Scotch tape. Everyone uses bubble mailers and boxes, and they top load. Any card that's even remotely collectible gets penny sleeved. Any card that's even remotely of value gets put in a top loader. And if it's a thick card, it gets put in like a one touch. So that's kind of like our Loupe seller community coming together. Like I didn't really have to force that. It's all just been kind of like it's just expected, like they know it. So that luckily I just haven't really had to enforce it. It's just like they've done it themselves. But again, that's part of the vetting process is like, have you been doing this long enough that you probably know that that's the standard?
Yeah, this isn't eBay, guys. I think that's what's important to know. They're vetting this, they're vetting the sellers. And I will just caution you, Eric, that as you do scale up, you may need to just make sure that you're keeping your finger on the pulse of that and ensuring that that people aren't using Scotch tape and are taking care of the car. But it sounds like you got that covered, so we'll leave it at that. But sounds like it's already happening, which is awesome. Okay, let's jump in and do the what I like to call the Sports Cards Live 5. Nope, wrong banner. There it is, Sports Cards Live 5. So 5 questions, Eric. We're not going to rapid fire them. Actually, the first one I'm going to ask you to take a bit more time and show some cards. So number 1, what's your favorite card in your personal collection? You can show a few if you want.
So I sewed the LeBron Chrome already. So I just picked these 2 up. These are the first vintage cards I've ever bought for my collection. So I have the 1953 Jackie Robinson. That's only a PSA 2. If you've ever looked at the prices on these, I'll be doing pretty well for myself if I ever own anything above maybe a 6. But I just love the way the cards look. And then I also got the Satchel Paige from that 1953 set. Beautiful. Every card in this set's amazing. These are 2 of the better ones. And then obviously the mantle, the mantle is like probably 3x or more the price of these for obvious reasons. So these are just really important to me. First vintage. It's really got me think about diversifying my collection of I have a lot of Kobe's and LeBrons and modern baseball players, but seeing a card from 70 years ago is really puts in perspective of wow, this hobby predates me, and it's so cool to see these still intact.
Yeah, beautiful cards. Number 2, what is the top card on your want list right now?
Dwayne Johnson, Bumblebee, University of Miami. Unfortunately, there was someone in the Miami area had one, and I went through and made an offer, and they decided not to sell. So I might have to hit the eBay for that one.
Okay, question number 3. Where is your favorite place to buy cards? Wink, wink.
Yeah, I mean, it's to show my own product, but it is actually true, is Loupe, just because I like hanging out with people in chat when I buy my cards.
Nothing wrong with that, man. Number 4, if you could change one thing about the hobby, what would it be that you haven't changed yet?
I think more women in the hobby. I've definitely seen women in the hobby. There are collectors, but when we were doing our research, 40 to 50% of professional sports fans are women. But actually, when you look into the data, it's less than 10% of card collectors are women. And I think that's just a huge missed opportunity for both collectors as a community, but also the suppliers like Panini and Topps. It kind of really shows that there's a big difference between the if you want to get down to it, the marketing and the way that the cards are presented. So yeah. I think that's someplace I'd like to see the hobby get a lot better.
Okay, and final question: what is your biggest hobby purchase or sale regret?
I knew exactly right off the bat. So I bought a box of Select that I ripped at home, and I got a Dwayne Wade 1/1 auto, and I should not have sold that card. I should have got it graded, held on to it, and so if I wanted to sell it later. But this was peak Eric sitting at home in the middle of a pandemic trying to get fundraising for a company. So he's going to sell this card and get some money to pay the bills. But that is my biggest regret. I will probably never own that card again. But yeah, I'm not making that mistake again.
No. All right, man. Thank you for playing Sports Cards Live 5. Appreciate that. Okay, so we are going to wrap up here pretty quick. We have a comment from Darren, says, love the vintage baseball. My first teaching paycheck went to vintage baseball cards, nothing that would grade well, but love them for the historical artifacts that they are. And as I had up earlier, Sanders and Dor says, Eric, if you're going to go big, If you're going to go big, great, Jackie Robinson. And Chad Chipper, welcome to the show. Better late than never, for sure. Okay, man. Well, listen, I think we've covered everything I had on my notes. We had some great interaction with the chat here today. So I want to thank you for joining, Eric. It's been really eye-opening to learn about what you're doing with Loupe, who you are. It's been great to get to know you. I got to spend 2 nights with you, which is the benefit of what I do. Just meeting more people in the hobby like yourself is awesome. So before we do end this, I'll let everybody know that, again, Major League Socks gave us this 20%. If you want socks, mostly hockey, some baseball, use the promo code SportsCardsLive for 20% off. That was really generous of them to give that to us. Remind everybody next week from Otis, the CEO, Michael Karnjanaprakorn will be joining, and then more episodes coming after that. And tonight on After Hours, we're going to start in about 15 minutes with Eric Myers. Eric, if you are watching right now, I'll see you in the studio in about 10 minutes or so. And otherwise, I think we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks everybody for joining. Eric, you hang tight right there. Thank you, Facebook user. Thank you, Darren. Lucky K says good luck with Loupe. I'll join tomorrow. Right on. Great to hear. That's it, everybody. We'll see you on After Hours in about 15 minutes. Everybody else, if you don't join, we'll see you next week. Eric, hang tight. And that's it for April the 7th.